deep breath and just try to exhale out all the negativity, restlessness, all thoughts of past and future. Just fully bring our awareness right into ourselves, into that state of beingness, relinquishing all sense of doingness. Things I've done, things I want to do, everything we just drop for a second. Trust into that pure awareness. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. So we are doing the Bhagavad Gita. So now, one of the things that I wanted to start today's class is that, this thing we have been speaking about on the sense of doership. So there was also a question related to that, but I'll mostly discuss some generic points first, and then we will go into the question. So one of the first things about this doership, which is the karta, it is a more prominent one. In fact, in Ashtavakra Gita, it says that that sense of doership is like the bite of a poisonous snake, meaning it is a deadly thing for our spiritual life. Why is that? Because the doership creates a sense of agitation in the mind. When we have doership, we are not able to see clearly, see reality as it is. Our understanding is clouded. It weakens our our original resolve, our sankalpa. So that is why we say, if you're having sankalpa, we should keep it for the well-being of the world, well-being of wherever ashram, whatever guru we are following. That is the where we should channel that kartratva. Uh, because the most important thing is that karta binds us. Because when you act with a sense of doership, then you become bound by the result of it, mentally and physically. That result. So it is that tool which becomes the catalyst for the karma, law of karma. So the real immunity from karma is not like completely abstaining from action, but from purifying that action, offering that action to the Lord, or by realizing that my true essence is free from doership, and that action that is happening is that which is my duty, that what I have to do. So, and of course, as I mentioned, the Karma Yoga Siddhanta is also an offering of that all the actions to the Lord. So, in that, next coming few days also, tomorrow, in fact, is that we worship Lord Ganesha's festival in India. So, Lord Ganesha is considered the Lord for wisdom, not just for one who removes obstacles in our tradition. So, of course, a lot of obstacles on our path is what most people commonly pray for. But Lord Ganesha is known for that highest wisdom that he has established in that in the Ganesha Tharvashisha, one of the stotras where Lord Ganesha is equated to Saguna Brahma. There it is mentioned, Om Namaste Ganapataye, Tvameva Pratyaksham Tattvamasi, Tvameva Kevalam Karthasi, Tvameva Kevalam Darthasi, Tvameva Sarvam Kalvidam Brahmasi. So it goes on like that. So basically it says, you are the doer, meaning that I am just an instrument and you are the real doer, and that you are the supporter of the whole world and everything. And you are that Tattvamasi. So this is, how a Vedantin worships God. He channels that devotion aspect. That using that knowledge, you superimpose that knowledge on a deity, but not from the dualistic perspective. So then what happens that no, deity you're worshipping, you start identifying with that. So whether we worship the deities, guru, and all that, it is from that point, that perspective. So here the reason I mentioned is because there, one of the points is Tvameva kevalam kartasi, you alone are the doer. So that is the perspective a person who has that who functions, that the Lord alone is the doer. I am not the doer. That is that perspective which transforms our doership. That is one of the ideal way. Of course, the way of the knowledge is that I am not the doer itself, but at the same time, that in order for us to channel that feeling. Okay, so there is one point which I will take up first. Is this question that Kartika had asked, huh? So some of you may have seen that, but basically she was asking how that karta can be how we can, like, if it is if the jivatma is superimposed with that doership. That idea of doership comes in the jivatma, and that is correct. But then, where does that doership reside? So, when we spoke about three aspects of action, what are the three aspects of action, constituents of action we spoke about? Anybody remembers in last class?
The doer of the action,
Ah.
the instrument, and the action itself.
Correct. Yeah. The doer of the action, karta, then the instrument of action, karana, and then the action itself, karma. So these three things, where do they reside? Where do they manifest? So actually, if you really look at it in that sense, we cannot divide it like how we can say something is in stula, sukshma, and all that. But yet, there is a way in Vedanta that where does the doership and also the enjoyership, which we said, the doership and experiencership or enjoyership, karta and bhokta. Where does it reside in us? So if we take the three shariras in general, can anyone kind of first assume where would the doership reside? And where would the enjoyership or uh, uh, experiencership, where could it possibly reside? Anybody? Of three shariras, we know there are three shariras, the stula, sukshma, karana, physical, subtle, and causal. If you take one, where would the doership reside in? Anybody?
Seems like the doership would reside in the sense of ego, I am doing. But yet, if you watch it from an external perspective, the body would be the doer because the body is the level or the sheath through which the action is coming.
Actually, this is also another point we can. If we talk about the sheaths, maybe we can talk from that perspective first. Let us talk about everybody knows there are 5 sheaths. What are the 5 sheaths? Annamaya kosha, then
Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha,
Vijnanamaya kosha,
Anandamaya
Anandamaya kosha. Okay. So now let us look at it this perspective. If we take these 5 things, of course, it seems like, as he said, the Annamaya kosha from an external perspective is the one which is doing action. But that action, what we said, of the 3 things, that action can actually, we can see manifesting in that stula, that Annamaya kosha. So we can perceive that the action is being done at the level of the body, mostly. Then when we look at the doership itself, where would that doership reside of these remaining 4 koshas?
Vijnanamaya kosha.
Vijnanamaya kosha. What part of why Vijnanamaya kosha? Or how Vijnanamaya kosha?
Because there needs to be like a sense of I-ness and doership that will come in that intellect sheet of existence.
So the intellect is where, see, we say that free will, or whatever action. Nowadays, science says, the free will and all that, it is in the prefrontal cortex, right? So that is the intellect aspect, according to Vedanta, that sense that you initiate, I will do this, I want to do that, So that comes in the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So the Vijnanamaya Kosha, if we take it like that, then which body would that be of the three bodies?
Sukshma Sharira.
Sukshma Sharira. It is in the Sukshma Sharira. Okay. Now, let us also think about the Bhoktrutva. Where do we experience anything? Where do we experience happiness? Of course, we can say Annamaya Kosha physically, like if I'm feeling cold and heat. It is there. But that sense of like what we talked about, Shitoshna, when I experience cold, where does that feeling of cold arise? Where does that feeling of hot arise?
Manomaya.
Manomaya Kosha. So that experiencership is in Manomaya Kosha. So both the doership and the enjoyership, they're both in the Sukshma Sharira, but they're divided in different koshas. Manomaya Kosha experiences. Now there is one more perspective I will just give for those of you who also understand the yoga and Sankhya. Because this is so far Vedantastic, right? From the yoga and Sankhya perspective, the doership and the enjoyership, this is not at the level of, because I don't want you to guess wrongly. This is not at the level of Sukshma Sharira, because they don't have anything called Sukshma Sharira from that Sankhya perspective or the yoga perspective also. In fact, what we say in yoga as the Manomaya Kosha and all that, that is actually borrowed from Vedanta only. Yoga itself does not come up with these classifications, especially not in the Yoga Sutras. So now if we look at it from the evolution of Prakriti and all that, where could the real doership, who is the doer? What is the thing where the doership originates?
Purusha.
Jivatma.
Jiva, Purusha, as Michael said, Who else? Anybody else wants to?
Ankar.
What do you say?
Ankar.
Ahankar. Ahankar as the doership, according to Sankhya. Okay, now actually, let us keep that aside. Now, where would the enjoyership be? Who is the one enjoying, or what is it enjoying?
Jivatma.
Jivatma, okay. But Jivatma as such, what we don't have in Sankhya, yoga, that chart.
Precious, enjoyership.
Where?
Precious, likes, dislikes.
But of the different evolutes, of what we say mind, ahankara, buddhi, of those, where is the enjoyership in that Sankhya chart, those who are familiar with it? Maybe next class I will present.
Senses, manas.
Senses, mind.
Mind.
What about others? You actually try and think if there's something else. Where else can it be? If it is other than mind, if we were to, as I've already gave the clue, in Vedanta, Sankhya it is different.
Prakriti?
That's a good thing, good thinking, but it's not still accurate. Okay, so I'll just mention, at least see the doership when we say from the real Sankhya perspective, who is the doer? The doer is Prakriti. Why? Because it is the gunas which are constantly doing things, and the gunas come from Prakriti. So it is really Prakriti, even that Ahankara, what we say, it is not really the doer. It owns up the doing, according to Sankhya. But it is not the doer as such. It claims that I am the doer. But
Maya. It's illusion, Maya.
It is that Maya. Now, the point here is, where is the enjoyership? And this is a very trick question when you look from Sankhya perspective. In Sankhya perspective, it is not the mind which is a doer, because mind and all that is also jada as such. So there, how can something which is insentient enjoy? We say the mind is enjoying, because we lack proper thing. We say mind is enjoying, but really, who or what it is enjoying? It is that Purusha itself. So from that perspective, what Shamlaji was saying is correct, Jivatma. But at the same time, it is not the Jivatma there. Here it is that pure consciousness, which, because of association with Prakriti, thinks it is enjoying. So the whole purpose of Sankhya, the teachings, is that the world exists, Prakriti exists to give bhoga to Purusha. Bhoga meaning that enjoying, that sense of experiences. Prakriti exists to give experiences for Purusha consciousness. So if you look at it from that perspective, right, everything in the world is for me to experience. Everything exists in the world. Happiness, sadness, sunlight, moon, house, air, elements, everything is so that I can experience. And now there is one more point. Prakriti also is there to lead Purusha to apavarga, meaning liberation. So here, according to that, that is where, yoga and all that we see, right? All the meditation techniques is what? So you have descended into enjoying. So you use that power of Prakriti and go back again. So Prakriti has two things. One is to take you deep in. The other one will pull you out. And those of you who are familiar with this Kundalini Yoga, Kriya Yoga, that is the whole path there. Like when you come down, you're descended through that Prakriti into lower chakras and into all the body manifestations, and through that Prakriti itself, that apara Prakriti, upward are going Prakriti, you are liberated. So Prakriti there is that doer. Whether it is giving you experiences or taking you to liberation, Prakriti is a doer. And Purusha is the one who is going through the experiences. The one sitting on that, what do you call that, wheel ride, that is going, that is a Purusha, not Ahankara from that perspective. Why? Because Ahankara is just a thing that is manifested. But it seems like it is Ahankara. Okay, so this is the point. Now, one more point I will take up here just before we go further. This is the other question that Michael, you had asked. So I'll just briefly introduce this. We can discuss more later also. But now action itself, when we talk about, right, that action has three further constituents or three classifying elements. What is it? Action and that we called action, doership and all that is dependent on three things further. This will come in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What is it? There is this thing, there is the knowledge, knower and known. This is what we call Triputi, the three aspects. There is somebody who is knowing, right? Somebody who is a knower, and something which is known. Knowledge, knowing, and known. So this process, right, determines all our actions, and also all our experiences as such. The karta and bhokta is dependent on these things, these three things. So when we say knowledge, it can not just be knowledge as in pure knowledge. It can mean knowledge and ajnana, ignorance also. So when we say knowledge, the level of knowledge, so we say, right, based on my understanding is how I experience the world. So that is one point. The other thing is that known thing, that what I perceive to be important, that what I want to know. And then the knower itself. Who is the knower? Is the knower the pure witness, or is the knower the pramata or the buddhi? Who is knowing? What is it that is recognized? What level the recognition is happening? So based on this, Vedanta has three different versions of of the world and the reality. This is going back to that shloka 16, where it is mentioned what is real, what is unreal. How do we know what is real, what is unreal? Because that what is real, what is we consider real is what we act on. Our kartrutva, bhoktrutva is dependent on what we take to be real. So now this thing is that what he had mentioned, it is called object permanence or perception of objects and the reality. Meaning, like, if I see something, what is its reality, or what is the what is my perception, and based on that, what is the reality of that? So a typical argument, his question was, is that when I leave a room and other people are still there having conversations and doing what they're doing, did those people, conversations and actions not exist? Like when I leave, when I'm in this room, we are in this class. Let's say, for example, you leave this class. Is this class still going on? Or does this class come to an end? So what we generally say is that this class is going on, but I'm not in that class, right? But from a pure or a higher Vedantic perspective, when you leave the world, this class is not going on. Why? Because, so there is two divisions in this. One is the nowadays philosophical thing, what is called a subjective realism, and also Buddhist Vijnana Vada. This is called subjective realism. There they're saying that mind, if I'm not experiencing, then it is not there. But Vedantas, it is called as Eka Jiva Vada, meaning there is a one Jiva alone in this whole world. Eka Jiva Vada. So it is not at the level of mind, it is at the level of Jiva. If there is a Jiva, then this whole world exists for that Jiva. How is that possible? So when we take it, this world as a dream reality, so that what you are experiencing is based on your karmas. So same, for example, I usually give this example. If you are going into a shop, like let's say there is some shop which has a lot of candies and sweets and other things you want. Let's say, for example, there is laddus, and then there is a lot of cakes on one side. So if you are the kind who just like cakes, you will not have much interest in that laddus. So that will not be so real for you. You will only see those cakes, right? Mostly. So similarly on a road, if you're walking on a road, there are thousands of people who will be walking, but you see your friend and that person, suddenly you recognize that friend. So that person has a reality for you. So when we look at this is the refined Vedanta version, but this is called also has what we call the Dristi-Shristi Vada, that seer and that object of seeing, that creation is manifesting for that seer alone. Now the common Vedanta teaching is not based on this. This is a refined Vedanta teaching. So the common Vedanta teaching, for us to purify our vision, we bring in Nana Jiva Vada. This is the Nana Jiva, meaning multiple lives, multiple Jivas. Like we are so many people are here. So what about this? So here the creation is already there, and you have kind of dropped into that creation, and you experience this creation. Why was the creation always already there? Because Maya had already created this creation, or has brought this creation in there. Not the creation is there in terms of how other people take it. The Vedanta's version is this illusion of creation has appeared already, and you're already bound in that. So this version of creation which we are taking, this is called the Shristi-Dhristi Vada. So in both of this, right, like this Vedanta's version, it is applicable. Now, Shankaracharya mainly teaches based on the first one, where the Maya is there and the creation is appearing. But he gives allowances for also this Dristi-Shristi Vada, Eka Jiva Vada. So later on, Acharyas have expanded on this. And of course, as I mentioned, other things. There are other traditions like in Buddhism and others. they have gone on. And now the later Vedanta, which has somewhat spun away from the traditional Vedanta, like we call the Neo Vedanta, Advaita, and all that. So they are more interested in this one. But what happens in that is that we are somewhat disconnected from the reality of our everyday lives. So there is no way for us to logically process both. So Vedanta actually wants you to take the Nana Jiva Vada in general and work towards liberation. But you can also just take Eka Jiva Vada, meaning that one Jiva alone exists. That also version is okay. And when you come to Mandukya, actually, like when one of the quote that he mentions, Adavante Chayannasti, there's no past, present, future. There is only that one. There was no such thing as past. No. So there it is called as Ajatavada, which I mentioned in the last class briefly. There is no creation philosophy. So when we say that, in this room, when I leave, is a conversation still going on? So that means we are looking at it from that Dristi-Shristi Vada. But again, as I mentioned, Vedanta, most teachings of Vedanta is not aimed really at that level, because at that level, what happens? Our thought processes is not going to get completely purified. That has to come into our experience as such. That has to come into our realization. So somebody like Ramana Maharshi or somebody, when they wake up to that realization, they can point that. But for us to purify our vision, we need to go through this other. So the formal teachings of Vedanta is based on the multiple jivas. Multiple jivas having realities. Then if I am not in that scene, it doesn't mean that creation has dissolved. But at the same time, there is that scope for that. Is that good, Michael? Any questions?
So I think what I'm understanding here is that the answer to the question is not an unequivocal answer. It depends on if you're going by a Dristi-Shristi Vada, Shristi-Dhristi Vada, Ajata Vada, but it also seems that that's not just a matter of deciding what you want to believe, but actually being in a place of purification.
Yes.
And actually experiencing it. So it's one thing to be, let's say, a Neo-Vedantin who just says everything is Ajata Vada, but very rare it seems to be a person who could actually experience the world like that.
Exactly. So even in Gita now we hear when the Lord actually says you cannot be the causation of something. So that is even negating Dristi-Shristi Vada there. When he says you are not just a doer, you are not even the cause of the thing. As Atma, see Atma we say is Nimittam Manaschakshuradi Pravato. That just as how the sun is the light of the all activities. Similarly, we say that Atma is the cause of all our activities like thinking, talking, speaking, and all that. But the Lord is saying that you're not even that. So the pointer has been given. But the teaching doesn't focus much on that at that level, for most people, for the most sadhakas who have to go through the purification process. So when that purification happens, the teaching is already there. It is not like the teaching was not there. You wake up and realize, oh, that was the teaching all the time. So that is you have put it well, that it is not just based on what we choose Vedanta to be or what we choose this teaching is that. The truth is out there, but the truth can be seen at multiple levels based on where we are. So even for a reality, even this Bhagavad Gita class, sometimes I tell people, you can come, you can see, but at the same time, I know, different students will take different things based on their understanding from where they are. It is all fine, but at the same time, that somebody who has taken the basic teaching of Gita will slowly understand the higher teaching also. We say in that context, we say with time. But it doesn't necessarily mean time. It means that when that purification happens, it can be instantaneous, within a day or two, or it could be a long time. Okay. Anyone else or anyone, or if you all want to think more on this before I move to the shlokas? Okay, so then let us look at the shlokas. So now we are looking at the we looked at the mantra number 21, so 22 onwards. Let us look at these 3-4 shlokas today. So all of you can just repeat after me. 22. Sorry. Okay, please repeat after me. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya.
Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya.
Navani gृह्णाति naroparani.
Navani gृह्णाति naroparani.
Tatha sharirani vihaya jirna.
Tatha sarirani vihaya jirna.
Nyanyani sanyati navani dehi.
Nyanyani sanyati navani dehi.
Nainang chindanti shastrani.
Nainam chindanti shastrani.
Nainam dahati pavakaha.
Nanam dahati pavakaha.
Nachainam kledayantyapo.
Nachainam kledayantyapo.
Nashoshayati marutaha.
Nachoshayati marutaha.
Achedyo yamadabhyoyam.
Achidyo yamadahyoya.
Akledyo shoshya evacha.
Akledyo shoshya evacha.
Nitya sarvagatastarnur.
Nitya sarvagatasthanu.
Achaloyam sanatanaha.
Achaloyam sanatanaha.
Avyakto yamachintyoyam.
Avyaktoyam achintyoyam.
Avikaryo yamuchyate.
Avikaryoyam uchyate.
Tasmadevang viditvenan.
Tasmadevam viditvenam.
Nanushochitumarhasi.
Nanushochitumarhasi.
Okay, so this we briefly looked at it last class. So here, now he is going to talk about that same Atma from a different perspective or a different level of reality. So what is it, the illustration he is giving? What is the illustration? As a person who has we all normally, what we do, every day we change our clothes, right? Like we put on new clothes. But the person who is changing the clothes remains the same. He or she doesn't change. So this pointer is given to denote that no matter when somebody dies, that person's body might die, but he or she will go and get another body. So naraha, you're a man is mentioned. Yatha jirnani, worn out, as one gets old, but it doesn't necessarily needs to be old. It's based on the karma. A young person, a child which is born can also die because every life has a certain birth, purpose of birth. That what we take to be the purpose may not be the purpose why we are born. Our purpose is determined based on our karma. From this perspective, we cannot even say God is so bad, so evil that a young man or a young woman at that age, she died or he died. So it is not that the God is cruel. It is based on our own karma and also what we have taken on, our own choice also. Just as how, if somebody is mentally agitated, then what happens? That person's jiva decides that I don't want to be in this body. I mean, that mentally he decides I don't want to be in the body. So similarly, when that body is old and worn out, the jiva decides I no longer want to be in this body. So then what happens? He or she leaves and they take on a new body. So that is the point. Granhati, it takes that. And then who is it? Dehi. So when we say Dehi, are we talking here about the Atma or the Jiva? When we say that that thing is taking birth again and again, are we referring to the Jiva or Atma?
Jiva.
Jiva, because the Atma as such is not taking birth again and again. That out of ignorance, that identification with that Sukshma Sharira and that reflection consciousness, that is taking birth again and again, Jiva. Okay, so that is the point in this sloka. Now that same point is mentioned from a different perspective. What is this? This quote is very also mostly, mentioned. Like when many places when somebody wants to say that you're more than the body, this quote is said. What is it? Nainam chindanti shastrani. Shastra means like a weapons. Weapons, especially like sword or those things, sword, knife, with which you can cut. That kind of weapons. And so those kind of weapons cannot cut that Atma. And it cannot cut the Jiva also because that Sukshma Sharira is not affected when the body dies, right? It remains intact. And now Pavakaha, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it, and the wind cannot dry it. So these four are referring to the what? What are they referring to? What are these? Wind, air, fire, and what are they?
Elements.
Elements. Elements. Correct. Everybody is able to see the screen? No.
Yes, Swamiji, you can see.
Okay. If I'm getting message, it is being paused. Okay. Okay. So the so 5 elements of that, the 4 is mentioned here by the Lord. The 4 elements, obvious things. It is the Lord is talking about this. Meaning these 4 cannot cut that Atma. Meaning that the Jiva we are talking about is a subtle body which is subtler than the gross thing. So gross things can affect the gross things only. Like the 5 elements can have effect on the 5 elements only. So like if something is made of earth, some bigger thing made of earth can affect that. If there is a bigger fire and that fire is bigger than the mountain, than the forest, or the force of that fire, so is fast, then it can burn down that forest, no matter how big that forest is. So there, what is happening? It is the elements clashing against the elements, the 5 elements. But can these 5 elements clash against the subtle body? Can these 5 elements make any dent on the buddhi, ahankara, chitta, and all that? It cannot, because the nature of it is subtle and the nature of this is gross. So that is the point that is mentioned. And then one more point he goes on to just to clarify that. He said achodyo yamadhabhyo yam akledyo yashochaya ashoshya evacha. So basically this Atma cannot be killed, it cannot be burned, it cannot be soaked, or it cannot be dried, which all these four elements tries to do. Why? Because it is nitya. Again, he comes back to that favorite thing he keeps mentioning. It is nitya. So why this? Because constantly in the buddhi, we need to keep doing this viveka, discernment. What is eternal? What is non-eternal? What is permanent? What is impermanent? See, even for a person who doesn't have Vedanta, if a wise person gives advice, like somebody wants to take career decisions or long-term decisions, they are first told, right? A young person comes, think of long-term, the consequences, the job you take, the career you take, the person you marry. Think of long-term, don't think of short-term. So that is the first process of nitya viveka. But here we are going a step further. What is eternal? What is beyond creation? What is always there? So that is how we are trying to look at. Then he goes on to mention omnipresent, sarvagataha, that consciousness is omnipresent. So when we say the consciousness is omnipresent, this is again, from a normal perspective, Dvaita Vedanta, we cannot justify this. Why? Because that jiva cannot be omnipresent. So it's only from the Vedantic perspective of Advaita Vedanta where we say Tattvamasi, that you are that same omnipresent consciousness. There's no difference between you. It is not like, I have a pure consciousness, which is this limited small thing, but then everybody has this pure consciousness. So that is the notion of which school of philosophy? That I have a pure consciousness in me, somebody else also has pure consciousness, but it is not the one consciousness. Which school of philosophy will say that?
Dristi-Shristi.
Dvaita.
Shamlaji, what do you say?
Dvaita, Ramanujacharya Dvaita.
Dvaita. Yeah, actually, he's also saying that. Yeah, that is true. That is, but from the sixth philosophy's perspective, actually, Visishtadvaita is correct. There is also correct. But from the sixth philosophy,
Sankhya.
Sankhya, what does Sankhya say? How does Sankhya say this?
Each existing consciousness is an eternal consciousness in its own right.
Yeah.
And liberation is the separation of Purusha from Prakriti, but there's
correct.
But there's infinite existing Purushas.
Yeah. So in other words, like according to Sankhya and Yoga, each of us are separate consciousness. So even when we get liberated, what happens? We get kaivalya. We become solitary. We become alone. We are not like the one consciousness. So this is somebody was asking. I think. Flavia or somebody, the difference between Kaivalya and Moksha. So from a real perspective, liberation is liberation. But the definition of liberation from yoga is that when you get free, you become completely free, alone. You don't become omnipresent, that one eternal consciousness. So Advaita Vedanta says, when you become free, you are that one consciousness. You are that one pure, omnipresent. And Stanur means it is like a stick, which is established firmly in the ground, which cannot be shaken. And the same thing, Achala. Achala means like unmovable, immovable. Sanatana meaning it is ever present. It is ever all the time there. Whenever you think of time, it is there. And then the same thing, but again shifting back from the jiva to the pure atma. Avyakto yamachintyoyam avikaryo ayamachyate. It is avyakta. Avyakta meaning it is unmanifest. So Prakriti in its pure form is avyakta. Mula Prakriti. Then when in contact with Purusha, it comes into manifestation. In fact, see, there also it is part of Dristi-Shristi vada when we take Sankhya. Because when that Prakriti comes, it is for that specific Purusha. So there is in higher things, they are also talking about the Dristi-Shristi vada. In fact, the whole Prakriya, what we call Drishya Viveka, it is borrowed from Sankhya. We say it is Vedanta because in Vedanta there is a text on that, seer seen text. Okay, indestructible and it is eternal. So now he's saying this. So now knowing this pure Atma, if you understand what this pure Atma is, then there is no cause of you are grieving for anything. There's no cause for you. There's no justification. There's no justification for you to grieve for anything. Okay. So this, especially this mantra 22, we can 22, 23, 24, we can all kind of contemplate on that. The first thing is like just as the people change clothes, if we focus on just the character, traits, personality, or the physical beauty of that person, then we are missing that real essence of that person. So in our daily life also, it's a very good practice to look beyond just the body of that person, beyond the even their traits, their healthy traits or good traits, bad traits. This is how the society kind of conditions us, right? But we know that the society, that general society is getting us more into that illusion kind of basis. So we have to use our buddhi to get out of that kind of thinking. And then there is manana also for the other shloka also has 22, 23 also there is manana. What is the manana there? Has 23, 24. As is the vision of myself, so is my attitude towards life. We talked about it. Dristi, Srishti, Srishti. As I see, so I experience the world, right? So am I afraid to face life circumstances, fearing challenges, difficulties, pain, and ultimately death? Or do I have an unshakable vision of myself and others? See, if we are identified as a body and mind, then what happens every time we are shaken up easily. But if we identify as that Purusha or that consciousness, that Atma, then what happens? Then we realize that even difficulties come, we are okay. We have a welcoming attitude. Whatever comes, why? Because it was mentioned before, they are all agama pai, meaning they're all coming and going. Every experience is coming and going. So one is to make it a practice. They do it in Vipassana and all. You just experience things are coming, going. But that knowledge has to be there. How is that what I'm seeing is different from me, that pure seer? When that knowledge is there, we are able to abide more and more with the strength of that knowledge. That strength of that knowledge enables us to stay as a witness for all experiences of our life. We don't see ourselves so much as body, and nor do we focus so much on others as just physical bodies. Okay, any questions, comments?
Swamiji, regarding this separation of jivas according to yoga, that everybody is a point of consciousness and a separate point of consciousness, but with liberation, don't these points of consciousness all connect with Ishvara ultimately and become one with Ishvara?
No, there is no Ishvara. What is that shloka? Ishvara also is a Visishta Purusha, meaning Ishvara also is a special Purusha. It is not like, everybody connects with Ishvara as such. So in our things, what Ishvara is that Saguna Brahma in Vedanta. So what happens from that Saguna Brahma, all these jivas, because of Saguna Brahma, they are all coming. But that Saguna Brahma and that Atma, the essence of them are the same. So what happens eventually, they are when liberation, the moksha, there's only one reality. But here what happens, I may be liberated, but that doesn't mean that that at that level of but see, this is again, the what they mean, we don't fully understand. From that perspective, as we said, truth is truth, but we are talking from a philosophical perspective. So there what happens is, when you become free, you're freed from that prakriti, but prakriti is still going on with all the dance of creation. So you haven't become one with that one consciousness. You have become freed. You have become isolated from Prakriti. So that's why it's called Kaivalya. The word Kaivalya means aloneness, solitariness. But it doesn't mean that you become that one consciousness. But they may mean that. So we cannot say they don't mean that. They may mean that, but it is not literally specified like that.
But in that manner, isn't illumination a step to continuous separation instead of union?
Yeah, it is separation in that sense that you are no longer caught up in the web of Prakriti anymore. So it is separation, and it is separation not in that sense of that like what we talk about in a worldly sense. People are lonely, not that kind of loneliness. Here, that separation is, you are resting in that joy of the self. So there is not an agitation that because I am sitting here, everybody is having fun. Not like that. It is that separation where you rest in that joy of that self. According to yoga only, I'm saying that. So, but it is not clearly specified whether that joy of self is that one consciousness, whether you are unified with that one consciousness. That for that Vedanta says that. Yoga Sankhya doesn't say that. It says that you are no longer caught in the trap of Prakriti.
Swamiji, Prakriti we can also consider as upadhis.
From Vedanta perspective, yeah, Prakriti is what gives us the upadhi. So where does Purusha and Prakriti unite? According to the chart, what is the first point of manifestation?
Mahat.
Mahat. Mahat or Buddhi. In the individual level, it is the Buddhi. Your cosmic level, it is the Mahat. So that is the first point of Upadhi. So the first Upadhi in Sankhya is Buddhi. When the first, if you take it from the Upadhi perspective, the first Upadhi is Buddhi. But from Vedanta, what would be the first Upadhi?
Ignorance.
Ignorance, correct. But from ignorance,
Maya.
no, ignorance, what would come? What would become the first Upadhi? Ignorance, yeah, you can say is Upadhi for Ishvara.
Desire?
No.
Asmita, ego.
Asmita, ahankara. Ahankara. So in Vedanta, we say, see, this is why, Ramana Maharshi and all, he focuses on the I thought, searching for that I thought. Why? Because in that I is that doership, in that I is everything. So, but in Sankhya, it's the other way around. The first contact is buddhi. Even before you say I, that buddhi has to be there. For you to say I, according to Sankhya. So, of course, it's different ways of seeing. Each can be justified. But it helps us to always have some comparison. And that is why I keep bringing Yoga Sankhya, because some of you are familiar with Yoga Sankhya. Now, the other point is that in relation to this, I was going to say something else. Right now, yeah, basically, when we say the doership, is there, the doership comes from at the level of buddhi. So where can the doership be eliminated? This is where all our sadhana should focus at the level of buddhi. Now, this is one point. Those of you who can understand can understand. See, our sadhana is mostly, especially when we are studying, from perspective of yoga, Vedanta, and all that, we are mostly focusing on buddhi, right? Why? Because the buddhi is the one where the wrong notion arises, and buddhi is where it can be eliminated. So sometimes, like if you look at deep rooted habits or deep rooted problems in life, ignorance or whatever we say. So some long back, I had a student. He was a new student, and he was saying, Swamiji, I have this problem with addiction and all that. Some thing he's addicted to. So I said, okay, if you really want to, let us sit and talk. What makes you addicted? What causes that trigger to come? So we started discussing like that. Then he said, Swamiji, this is too much thinking. I will let me go think and come. See, that root of whatever you're holding on to is at that level of intellect. So you have to go deep in there and uproot it. So this is what Vedanta is saying. Ultimately, when in that buddhi, that vritti will come continuously, that I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am this pure consciousness, then our day-to-day habits will transform. But what we do is we put that horse before the cart. Like I want transformation to happen, then I will start thinking or changing. So the prakriya here is that buddhi is where the doership and the enjoyership is. All our bhoktrutva, everything. Of course, we say manomaya, but at a subtle level, it is at the buddhi. So when we keep studying, when we keep contemplating, even though we may feel like, this is, I don't get it and all that, that shift is starting to happen. We are able to, that old chains which we have held on to, that old samskaras, they are started to loosen up.
Bhumi, can I ask a quick question on
Yeah.
verbiage, on a word? You used the word a couple times, prakriya. Is that synonymous with sadhana?
Yeah, prakriya means it is a process. It is a methodology, rather. That is the right word. Prakriya means methodology. So teaching methodology, we say. So Vedanta has different prakriyas. So unlike a practice, like if you're doing a sadhana, what happens? It is one practice you do every day. In a normal sadhana, it is the same thing. Like I think it was Einstein or something he said that stupidity is doing the same thing every day or something, right? But in sadhana, it is real. You do the same thing every day. But from Vedanta, it is different prakriyas to loosen up the wrong notions, different methodologies of teaching to point to that same reality. So when you hear, so this is why, now Lord is saying, you shouldn't grieve. Why? Because even if you are the body, you shouldn't grieve. I'm giving you reasons. If you are Atma, you should not grieve. If you believe you are just a jiva, then also you should not grieve. So these are different prakriyas the Lord is using to point to why Arjuna should not grieve. Okay, let us take a minute to also use this opportunity to see that pure consciousness in the form of Lord Ganesha, and from the level of our sadhana ask for removal of all obstacles in the form of Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika, and all the obstacles that come in our path, which we usually ask when we chant Shanti, we ask for pacification of that, so that we may continue with the Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Stay. Thank you all.